Good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Anon, your host for the next couple hours, along with Gal.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Nick is having a family in town, so he said he's not going to join, but he may. And Spence is still in Alaska. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. I woke up this morning, boy, what a gorgeous day outside. I said, I want to go outside and sit.
Okay, so guys, we're done with the show.
Oh, you're answering Alan. Yeah. I forgot to ask you. So what did you do anything to your server? Talking about Roku.
The Plex server?
The Plex server.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I haven't touched it in
weeks.
Very long.
Yeah.
Oh. Probably we'll get to it this week, but finally got some stuff out of the way. So.
Yep. I got to the point where once a week I run that script you set up for me to fix my Plex, even if everything is working. And so far it seems to be okay. I have not rebooted.
That's not too bad, because one of the things that it does, because it restarts the container, you're getting an update if there is an update.
Yeah, it always says pulling Plex.
Always pulling the last version.
Yeah.
If it'll skip it if it's already on the last version. So.
Oh yeah, fine. I have not rebooted that machine now in some time, which is not the way it used to be in the beginning.
I can we can make it a scheduled job, and then it'll happen once a week anyway.
She's working. That's what's important.
That is good.
So last week we were talking about the fact that Elon Musk is not getting Twitter because they rejected him and all that. And guess what? Monday.
Yep.
So it's interesting. We'll see. The thing that I was reading that kind of surprised me is they said that a lot of people left Twitter when they heard that he was okay to buy it. And a lot of people, they said that a lot of people
did. Numbers.
Huh?
Are there actual numbers?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot. And they said that since Monday, when it was announced, then a lot of these people went and set up a Mastodon thing, and they are trying to do their own. But then they were saying that anytime there are changes at Twitter, then you see a lot of people dropping, and um, I don't know. To me, Twitter can't get any worse. So to me, this is only for the better. Um,
Look, I never subscribe to any view against any platform,
no.
be it be it anything. Like I don't care about Gab, I don't care about Twitter, I don't care about what's the Trump one, Truth, right? I don't care. It doesn't matter. It matters only for those who are invested in it, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
So fine, right? Put your life there and then you care about what's happening there. But let's be realistic, right? Uh, these are in flux since day one.
sure.
There's nothing. I remember when everything was new, right? And and Facebook was the novelty about Facebook was that unlike previous attempts to socialize on the network, this was the first time people were putting their real name and their real faces, right, on an online platform,
Yeah.
which
Well, there were little ones
every
before that, but something global like that, yeah.
right something yeah and by every fiber that rubbed uh, on me up until that time, you do not do that online. You
Hmm.
just don't, right? You don't do that online. The only place where you might use your actual name would be email, because email is something you use officially, right? Email is like the equivalent of mailing address. So, and even there, right, you will have multiple because you will use your actual name for, official stuff, but the other stuff, you don't want your real name.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and I, like everybody else, because it was exciting, I went into it and it was novel and it was new, but it wasn't commercial then.
right. It
It
was,
wasn't making any money. It was just this very new thing. Twitter was the same. Uh, Twitter even came, I think, earlier, right? And that's the thing. When they were a new idea, when they weren't there to make the money, they were there to grow and see what they can create. And and it was clear from the start. At one point, it's going to become right a commercial thing. All of this, and everybody's surprised. Come on, it's like it's the main reason not to take part in it is what we probably discuss here week in and week out, right? Is we need to remember who the product is. And it's not that I mind being the product. I really, really enjoy Reddit right now, right?
hmm,
I think most of my online time is spent in assorted subreddits. Uh, Somehow they do not make it uh, about the sponsored content. Okay, it exists, but it's not about that, and somehow it works. And for me, I don't feel that way on Twitter. I follow a few things. I have the Twitter app. I follow a few things. Facebook, I've dropped out of it. Right, I haven't deleted the account yet. Don't know. Can't even say why. Most of it is because I am not. I did a uh, takeout of all of the equivalent of the Google takeout from Facebook. I just haven't checked the data to make sure that I can actually access it, because if it's
what
if it's
what
unreadable,
what
it's
data?
unusable.
What data?
I mean, I have been active on Facebook for quite a few years before I
Oh,
decided to
okay.
step down, right? So there are personal photos. I haven't taken them off completely, And mostly because I haven't checked the backup, didn't uh, give time to it. I haven't checked the backup and see what I can preserve out of it. There are some important things. Most of them are personal connections. Those are the hardest to just sever. There are
Yeah.
some connections that currently I have only on Facebook. So sometimes I open the Messenger website and that's the way I communicate. Nowadays, I move them to WhatsApp, or if I can, to Signal or Telegram, right? Because this way they at least have a phone number for me. And it means that, okay, let's say all of these networks, they go out, at least they have a contact number that stays. And it's funny, but the good old phone system, switching phone system, still is the main form of communication,
Mm-hmm.
that and email. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever posted a personal thing on Facebook that I remember. I don't think I've ever posted a picture. It was always just about the shows that I
right.
do here.
So the
I
way these networks, this is the most, I think this is the most fascinating thing about this social network. So the way these networks work, right, is okay. There, there's a new network, right?
Mhm.
Gab, remember when it came out. So I'm a curious tech person. There's a service that I can register for free. I register.
Mhm.
I want to preserve the name that I can get at the beginning. I don't know if I'll use it or not, but I mean, on Twitter, I am GSZ. Okay, just
Mhm.
3 letters. You know how many times I've been, that, something like that. That account is being, there's a lot of attempts to try and grab it
Mhm.
because it's real estate, right?
Yeah.
So, um, and uh, and the way the social networks they continue to thrive, right, is once I get an account, if I don't have if I have less than 50 contacts there, the chances of me returning to this in a month, right, are very, very, very slim. If I don't have meaningful like interactions within that network, then it's just gonna die on me, right? I'm not talking about the network. I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
That network for me is gonna die. So I'm not gonna preserve it. And so those statistics they show that, right, if you do not have any interactions that are meaningful for in the beginning, then it won't continue. The only social network right now that I am actually visiting every once in a while is LinkedIn, and I hate it. It's like I hate that network, but it's just the only place where there are active communications going on of people that I have some interest in following, right? On the personal level.
Mhm.
Facebook, I still have people there. It's just I don't with Facebook, me personally, I'll just go in and it'll be sucked in. But because there are people there who actually live there, right? They like every day they post something and they share something. I can get sucked into their lives, but they're away from me now. So only if I really want to catch up on what's going on with that person. That's
Yeah.
right. So Elon Musk is buying Twitter, right?
Mhm.
Is It's going to be interesting because it is going to affect the business model. Probably it is going to affect some of the behavior. Will it make me more interested in Twitter? I am not so sure, right? My world isn't around Twitter. Uh, will we continue hearing about Twitter? For sure. Yeah.
Of
Let
course.
the show begin. I'll buy some popcorn. It'll be interesting. Right? But I don't think it affects. And to be truthful, I actually think that most of our audience, they don't really care.
Right.
Like They enjoy the headlines as much as us, right? They enjoy how it affects everything. I mean, will it affect journalism, for example? I don't think so. Will it affect politics? I actually don't think so. Will it affect the water cooler discussion? Yes, that's about it. It's just a very elaborate water cooler discussion.
Yeah, also the one of the interesting facts about it that Trump said that even if it goes through and everything, he has uh, no need to go back to Twitter. He doesn't really want to go back on Twitter, even if they allow him in now, because he's got his own, and he says what I'll be concentrating on. And you always think about the people that were uh, banned. That to hear, okay, yeah, now I can go back. I didn't see anything about that, and
Well,
we don't know that they will let.
nobody knows.
Yeah,
It's too early to
right.
talk about it.
Yeah,
It's unclear even if his involvement is going to change
no.
that aspect.
Well,
So it
the
is real.
his involvement is
He
only going.
claims, I know.
The only thing that his involvement. You're talking about Trump or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Oh, Musk will. I mean, he's not going to do. No, I don't think. I mean, it will change some things because it's a different personality. But if you look at the business model, I would think Musk is already on Twitter, so he's not going to bring any new followers, any new users.
Yeah, but that's not about. I mean, the reason he's stepping in is he sees this. This is another toy in his chest, right?
Yeah,
He has
but
played with spaceships. He has played with money. He has played with groundbreaking technology in vehicles and in solar and right. And he's done all of those. I mean, quite successfully. Uh, it'll be interesting to see what he can do with because I think he understood something. Right. Trump, when he was kicked out, he said, "Okay, I'll open a network of my own." But that network, it's clearly not going to grow and thrive like a Facebook or a Twitter, right? It doesn't really matter how you set it up. It won't battle these because the way they grew is completely different. And this is when Trump put the idea that he's going to do his own. That was a political idea. So it's going to be a political platform from start. I will never be a fun one that you go and post your grandkids' pictures on, right? So, um, so I think Musk by stepping in and say, okay, I'll I'll be meaningful in Twitter. And by the way, he's not like taking over. He's not taking ownership. He is uh, at least not yet, right? It just he's buying a substantial share, so it'll um, it'll be interesting.
definitely will be interesting.
Yeah,
Here are some of things said. Uh, Twitter direct messages should have end-to-end encryption like Signal. He tweeted on Wednesday, so no one can spy or hack your messages. On Monday, Musk also announced hopes to authenticate all humans.
yeah.
But now Security Week is wondering if Musk's acquisition of Twitter will ultimately mean not just better security at Twitter, but also innovation for the entire cybersecurity industry. That people
I
will look,
mean, probably,
yeah,
right?
it'll change things.
Yeah, it'll. I mean, things will change. I don't think it'll change in the rate that people are talking about.
Nah,
If those ideas are implemented, look, one of the novelties of Twitter are bots.
Yeah.
Some of the bots, right,
Intrusive.
are not intrusive so much as uh, fraudulent, right? They are impersonating people,
Yeah.
and yes, that's a problem,
Mhm.
right? But I don't think you don't want to kick bots out. You probably just need to
They have
identify.
yeah, they have their place. Absolutely.
Yeah, because bots are also part of the humor and effectiveness of this network. XKCD, the animator, xkcd.com. It's a weekly, um, 3 times a week he posts a new comic, right?
Okay.
And there's a bot that just I don't know even if he runs it. I think he does. That takes that comics that he posts, and you see it on social network. You see it on Instagram. You see it on Facebook. You see it on Twitter. Obviously, it's a bot, right? It takes it automatically, and you can you can just follow on Twitter instead of going to the site or having an RSS feed that you follow.
Mhm.
Uh, Somebody else wrote a bot called Goodbot, and whenever that
Good bot.
bot posts uh, posts something, Goodbot goes back and says good bot. That's all he says. It's like good bot. And somebody else wrote another bot called good bot. And that good bot always reacts, and that good bot always reacts to good bot. It is such a corny, geeky joke. And he posts 3 times a week. Every time he posts, I assure you, everybody is looking for that good bot, good bot. And when something doesn't work, it's like, what happened to the good bot or something like that? It's like a whole conversation. It's part of a community. So those
Well,
bots are integral, but
if it
you are
makes
not
people feel good and laugh, that's great.
exactly
Yep.
there is the purpose is in its purpose in unpurpose of it, right? In the negative purpose of it is exactly their purpose,
Yeah.
and it, it needs to stay there. So there are entire communities where bots are essential, and there are entire communities where humans are essential. I think it's really important to understand the roles of everything and clearly mark them. But then I'm thinking, this is very interesting because it goes back to our discussions in the past on free speech, right? Free speech should never be anonymous speech.
Right.
The problem with anonymous speech, right, is the moment you hide, then the meaning is completely lost. The moment it has a face, right, and it is protected. So you are allowed, right, by the rule, you are allowed to criticize, you're allowed to say something. Then everything has a meaning, right? And that meaning has to do with who you are, what you did, why you're saying what you're saying. And you cannot use free speech anonymously. The moment you use free speech anonymously, there is a problem. I'm not saying but it's not free speech. Because the moment you needed to hide your identity, you're not free.
Yeah. And that's not the only thing. I mean, if you have to announce who you really are, then
Yeah.
you would think twice before saying something, attacking somebody, or uh, being negative about something that you would be if you could be hiding. Because it's easy to attack when you're hiding and nobody knows who you are. But if you are showing yourself and you know that people know who you are, you behave in a different way, a lot more responsible way, let's say. And that's a good thing.
I believe so as well. Look, I understand the point of why somebody would anonymously report something, say something. But if you are looking for an audience, right, and you want to keep being anonymous, then that is a problem. I'm not saying everybody should know where you live and your daily routine, right? But
Right.
the face is important. So yes, I'm going back to write everything against the grain of my fiber online. The reason to keep anonymous is to keep away from bad actors. If you want a platform that talks about free speech, that platform needs to be as safe as possible for everyone using it. So, so yeah, uh, whether Elon Musk is the savior, I doubt it. Right? But he is definitely one to not necessarily adhere to the norm. And it'll be interesting seeing his take on this. It's not something he built, but he definitely has built an audience there. And I
Mhm.
wonder if the only reason he's buying it, if you've ever seen a tweet by Elon Musk,
Mhm.
right, and you read through the comments, there's a lot of bots there that because he was involved, because he bought Dogecoin, so there's a lot of cryptocurrency talk around that. So whenever he tweets, it doesn't matter what he tweets about. The responses are like, usually I need to scroll down through like at least 5 or 10 stuff that is completely unrelated. It's about either some scammy site or some Dogecoin news or some that has nothing to do with anything. So maybe he just bought Twitter to just clean up his replies
Uh,
and get rid of those. I
well,
don't
to
know.
spend so
Like,
many billions just for that, yeah,
yeah. But then again, he
yeah,
has so many of them. So what
yeah,
will he do with
yeah.
them?
And the another thing about Twitter. So on Thursday, Twitter reported mixed first quarter earnings, missing Wall Street expectation on revenue but adding users. It also admitted to overcounting some monetizable daily active users between the first quarter of 2019 and fourth quarter of 2021. So they were reporting more users, active users, than what really were there. And I remember there were a lot of articles and a lot of questions about, come on, you're this, you're that. But it's interesting. So now they are admitting it. Well,
I,
like you said,
I
we'll see
wanna.
what happens. It's interesting. It's sort of like it gives you something to look forward to, whether to see is it going to be positive or negative. It's something that when people are into Twitter, okay, let's see what's going to go. It's not anymore just like a daily thing, and you go and you read your the people you're following. It's a change. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. You were going to say?
No, no,
Oh,
definitely.
okay.
That's
Last week we talked about how Netflix is losing value and users and all that.
one.
That
I'm stepping away. I'll be back in a
okay.
moment.
Um, and that last Sunday, Katie and Donna came over, and Katie was reading, and Katie is an animator. She's got her degree in animation, so she's doing a lot of work with animation. Those of you that don't know, the uh, intro to Computers to Now was done by Katie. But we were sitting there in the living room, and she jumped. She said, "Oh no!" I said, "What?" She said, "Netflix shut down their animation department." I said, "Interesting." And we talked about Netflix this morning that they are they're losing money. She said, yeah, now this is really bad because they had quite a few things on there, and she obviously keeping up with what's going on over there. She said, yeah, this is really bad because they had some shows that they were doing and they are shutting them down, and there's not going to be animation. So I was looking for information about it yesterday to see if something came up, and I did find one where Netflix fired their director of original content department, whatever, um, and canceled a few shows, original shows that had to do with that the animation had something to do with them. So this is big news. I mean, it's not like Netflix was producing uh, Looney Tunes. It's part of a lot of their original content had some animation in it, and that's not going to happen anymore. So it's very interesting that it's all happening at the same time, and nobody could say whether or not it has to do with what was happening with uh, lowering lower numbers for the period or losing so many users or whatever. It's just something else to look at and said, "Yep, uh, I don't think we're going to see the demise of Netflix. But they may not be that big." Well, I don't have a crystal ball, so maybe I shouldn't say that. We'll just have to wait and see what is happening with Netflix in the next few months. See how they are recovering, or is it going to turn into a snowball down a hill? We'll see. Um, let's see what else is here that this was about Netflix. Now, here's another article that says Amazon shares are tumbling on Friday, with the e-commerce company seeing its biggest intraday percentage drop since October 2011, after it gave an outlook that was seen as disappointing. Shares fell as much as 13%, taking them to their lowest since June 2020. The sell-off erased more than 178 billion of the company's Market valuation. Amazon shares are down more than 20% for the month, their biggest one-month percentage drop since December 2018. The slump represents the latest hit to Wall Street's biggest names, which have come under heavy pressure in April. So this is another company that now, by no means, this is not like you have $10 and you lose $5. That's a big deal. I mean, when you're talking about billions and billions, and you use a few billions, I guess it doesn't matter to the company. Besides, it's a nice write-off too. But it's just interesting to see that it's all happening across the board to the big tech companies. So we'll see. And those of you who are in rural, uh, areas that don't have fiber and you want fast internet, Fiber optic cable is being laid across the globe at great expense to speed up people's internet connections. But researchers claim that the copper telephone wire already in use across the country can achieve data rates 3 times higher than currently seen at a fraction of the price, at least over short distances. They were talking about carrying 1 gig on copper. And short, I mean, the smallest the city or community, the easier it is to, because you know that the phone company has high speed coming to their office. And this is sort of like DSL. If any of you remember DSL, you had to be a certain distance from the central office, and you can get internet up to a certain speed, which was not much. It was, 256, 384, 512, and we're talking, we're not talking megabits, we're talking kilobits. But you could get high speed on copper, and it didn't cost them much. Now, apparently, researchers found out that you can do same thing. Those of you that had it, and I remember we had DSL from AT&T, and there was like a little adapter that you put at the end of the line that comes from AT&T, which forked into internet and the telephone. So this is probably going to be kind of the same thing, and you would put some kind of an adapter there, and you can get really high speed. When this is going to happen, who knows? But it's nice because this will probably happen in your area. That if you're in a rural area, it will probably happen before there'll be fiber laid all over the town. To lay fiber is expensive, so they do it where they can see a return for their investment. So we'll wait and see. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. If you feel like, I guess I should say, if you're afraid and you feel like you're going to get taken by phishing attacks, you're not alone. Major technology companies have been duped into providing sensitive personal information about their customers in response to fraudulent legal requests, and the data has been used to harass and even sexually extort minors, according to 4 federal law enforcement officials and 2 industry investigators. Big companies fell for some kind of a phishing attack and provided information to the scammers. The companies that have complied with bogus requests include Meta, that's Facebook, Apple, Alphabet's Google, Snap, Twitter, and Discord, according to 3 of the people. All of the people requested anonymity to speak frankly about the devious new brand of online crime that involves underage victims. The fraudulently obtained data has been used to target specific women and minors and in some cases to pressure them into creating and sharing sexually explicit material and to retaliate against them if they refuse. So companies like Facebook and Google and Discord and Twitter gave it to scammers because they thought that they were complying with the legal request. So you're not alone where if you feel uh, vulnerable. I think individuals probably do better job. I mean, I can't believe that companies like that there is one person that will make a decision. Yep, I'm going to give this stuff to Twitter. They're asking for a list of names of such, you know. I would think that in order to do that, you need to have their legal department look into it and other departments. And, it takes a long time. And you say, you know what? Yeah, unless you get a summons. But it's interesting. And people would just suffer because of it. So if you got something in the mail, in email, and you think that that's how they got it, let authorities know about it. Um, we were talking about Netflix. Yeah, you were listening. Up, you were muted.
Yeah. When I left, you were starting to say
Yeah,
Netflix, and then I had to leave.
yeah. So they closed down their animation department. Uh,
Oh yes, I heard about that. They
yeah,
had some actually successful. There
yeah,
was one or two successful movies, but yeah,
yeah. I mean, Katie was here that last Sunday, and she always reads and stuff, and she jumped. Said, "Oh no!" I said, "What?" She said, they closed their animation department. Yeah, so that's bad.
yeah. I heard an interesting take on all of this. I mean, to me,
Yeah,
it might not be news, but with Netflix now dealing with so many competitors,
yeah.
uh, Netflix is the only one out of all of the other competitors that this is their only line of stream of revenue,
The
content and
yeah,
subscription, right? Because Amazon, it's a side business, right?
right.
I mean, even the Amazon shop is a side business. It's a very big chunk of the side business, but the main thing is cloud services,
Cloud
right?
Star. Yeah.
60%. Uh, Apple, it's a side business. They can dump millions and billions on it, right? But it's still a side business. With HBO Max, Warner Brothers, it's a side business.
Mhm.
Disney, it's a side business. So they all of these huge giants running their own networks, right? They can they can take the hits and steadily build content, and they do not need to push uh, uh, in the same rate and be concerned about successes and failures the way Netflix are about subscribers, right? Because once they lose subscribers, um, the chances of getting them back is probably slim.
Very slim. Yeah.
So, um, so that's an interesting look at it. Netflix doesn't have any others right now. I mean, when you think about it, right? Probably a very substantial part of Netflix is actually running on Amazon cloud services, right? So it's something. It's a situation where in the long run, it is really unclear how they are going to win, how they're going to stay relevant
Right.
the way they're doing it. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's thinking about it like this is, I'm like imagining, okay, so it's going to be what, an acquisition from Microsoft or something in, sometime in the future, like another big company that doesn't have that, and this is what they'll do.
Elon Musk.
Nah, I don't think he's interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is the one that you create content about. He doesn't need to create.
We'll just have to wait and see
Yeah, definitely.
how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is an interesting situation.
Yeah. All right. So FaceTime users are getting bombarded with group calls from numbers they've never seen before, often as many as 20 times in short succession during late hours of the night. Spammers behind the pranks call as many as 31 numbers at a time. When a person receiving one of the calls hangs up, a different number will immediately call back. FaceTime doesn't have the ability to accept only FaceTime calls coming from people in the user's address book. That's
Okay.
bad.
Yeah, probably in 2 years we'll get a feature like that, and everybody will cheer. Yeah.
It also requires that all numbers in a group call must be manually blocked for the call to be stopped. And this guy says, I got my first FaceTime spam starting
Oh.
4 days ago. One user reported to an Apple support forum earlier this month. It has been nonstop. Over 300 numbers blocked so far. My 3-year-old daughter has been accidentally answering them and going on video without t-shirt on. 3-year-old. The high volume of callbacks appear to be the result of other people receiving the call, dialing everyone back when the initial call fails shortly after answering.
Ah,
What?
no, I get it. People are getting that call and they're calling back and they're calling back the group.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So as more and more people receive follow-on calls, they too begin making callbacks. Apple provides surprisingly few ways for users to stop the nuisance call. As noted earlier, users can block numbers, but this requires manually blocking each individual person on the group call. That's not an effective solution for people receiving dozens of group calls, often to a different group of people in a short period of time, often in the wee hours. Every other program that I know, you can say, even on email, you can tell your email client that you only want to receive stuff from your uh, contact list, and it'll put everything else as bad. But when you get phone calls and late at night, geez, I am
Yeah,
so glad I
I
don't
don't
have.
know.
Huh?
Both of us were not on the Apple network.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just sounds like, okay, if this becomes a thing, right? Like, probably the reporting is anecdotal. So, if this does become a thing, it'll probably be a feature soon, and everybody will cheer, and it was as if it was never an issue.
Oh, well, it is. It's an issue any way you look at it. It's really bad.
Yep. Something like that,
Uh,
it's bad.
China is preparing to hit pause on its months-long campaign against technology companies. And these are technology companies in China. Now, we're not talking about as officials seek to stop the rapid deterioration in the country's economic outlook. Apparently, they're having a lot of problems economically, and at the same time, they were uh, campaigning against technology companies there. I don't follow China, so I don't know what the story was and why they're attacking them. But yeah, the story here that what's important is China is having a problem economically. No,
I mean, China isn't the only one where the
no,
economy slowed
yeah, that's
down.
right.
So yeah, I'm sorry, not too versed in world
No,
politics.
no.
We need Nick here.
Watch Nick shows up in a second. A report released last week contains that Amazon uses voice data from its Echo devices to serve targeted ads on its own platforms and the web. The
And this
report,
is a surprise. Why?
what?
Why is this a surprise?
Oh, a lot of people don't believe that. The report, produced by researchers affiliated with the University of Washington, UC Davis, UC Irvine, and Northwestern University, said the ways Amazon does this is consistent with its privacy policy. Titled, Your Echoes Are Heard, Tracking, Profiling, and Ad Targeting in the Amazon Smart Speaker Ecosystem. The report concludes that Amazon and third parties, including advertising and tracking services, collect data from your interaction with Alexa through Echo Smart speakers and share it with as many as 41 advertising partners. The data is then used to infer user interests and serve targeted ads on platform, the Echo devices, as well as off platform, which is the web. It also concludes that this type of data is in hot demand, leading to 30 times higher ad bids from advertisers. Amazon confirmed to The Verge that it does use voice data from Alexa interaction to inform relevant ads shown on Amazon or other sites where Amazon places ads. So they're not hiding it. They say, yeah, we do it.
That's why I'm saying, why is this a surprise? It was always in plain sight.
Yeah, but there was always something about how do you stay private with
You
Alexa?
can delete everything.
Right. You can't.
You have no. You can. You have control.
Turn it off.
You can delete everything.
Yes.
No. I mean, everything you said, you can go in, but
right.
I mean,
it's
not convenient or anything. It's not automatic, right? But if you are that concerned, right?
Yeah, that's right. You could
a device like that in your house.
Yeah. Yes. You're right. You can delete. You can tell it not to record or to delete.
No. Everything you say is recorded and it preserves. Now you can tell it. There's a way of managing that history. You can go to the app and you can and you can go through all of the history. You can actually listen to your voice, right? To the things you said, I think, and stuff like that. But you can also delete that. But from the beginning, right, the first thing you do is Amazon writes it in the EULA and explains, right, this is going to record, this is going to. I think the key here is to understand this is only the interactions, only when that ring is deleted. There's no surprise as to what it is recording.
Hopefully.
No, not hopefully. Go and look at the traffic that is going on. It happens only when you are in conversation with that device. There's no other interaction that is triggered by voice that is different. There's no ifs and buts around it. It also doesn't make sense. Look, I think I've said it before. It doesn't make sense to spend computing power on something that you have no idea whether it's going to be useful or not. These are
True.
not
True.
everybody likes a conspiracy theory, right? But the thing about conspiracy theory is somebody needs to make something out of it. The CIA or the NSA, right? Even they don't listen to everything. Right. They are looking for specifics.
Yeah.
So it's everything is a needle in a haystack, and nobody has defined those needles quite well enough and are not going to waste a haystack just for needles. So,
well,
if you make it economic, that is a completely different discussion, but it has never been economic.
All right. Here is interesting info. Microsoft is testing a VPN-like service for its Edge browser, adding a new layer of security and privacy to the browsing experience. A recently discovered support page on Microsoft website details the Microsoft Edge Secure Network feature, which provides data encryption and prevents online tracking courtesy of Cloudflare. While it isn't available yet, even if you have the latest dev channel built, the Microsoft Edge Secure Network feature appears to be similar in nature to Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 service. This is essentially a proxy or VPN service which encrypts your browsing data so that it's safe from prying eyes, including your ISPs. It also keeps your location private, so you can use it to access geo-restricted websites or content that's blocked in your country. Now, Microsoft Edge Secure Network mode will require you to be signed into your Microsoft account, and that's because the browser keeps track. See, I mean, it's already keeping track,
of course,
of how much data you've used in this mode. You get 1 gig of free data per month, 1 gigabyte. And that's tied to your Microsoft account. Most VPN services aren't free, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. Cloudflare itself doesn't keep any personally identifiable user data, and any data related to browsing sessions is deleted every 25 hours. Information related to your data usage is also deleted at the end of each monthly period. So I'm sure you get 1 gigabyte for free, and then you can pay for more. But it'll be part of Edge. Well, we'll see. I thought we talked about the fact that VPN is becoming less and less necessary because of all the security that is available out there.
It will never be unnecessary, but it is becoming less and less about anonymity. That much is clear. Yeah. So I mean, the amount of so there are those who sell themselves as some sort of anonymizing service, right? None of them are really anonymized. Some of them do have claims that they do not preserve any logs, right? But most of them haven't been tested under the scrutiny of law. So you can't perform a crime through a VPN and expect to through a commercial VPN and expect to get away with it, right? Uh, so whatever you do it for stuff that you know won't bite you.
Yeah. Everything takes me back to Twitter, but this is a smart move. Twitter locked down its source code to prevent unauthorized changes. Sources familiar with the matter told Bloomberg. The reports say that this change was made to prevent employees from going rogue and sabotaging the platform after Elon Musk's $44 billion purchase of the company. Currently, a vice president must approve any changes. After the company announced it would accept Musk's offer to buy the publicly traded platform, it wasn't immediately clear to Twitter's 7,000 employees how their day-to-day would change. Even after a company all hands, where CEO Parag Agrawal reassured the team that no layoffs were planned at this time, employees were still left with questions about how they would fare in Musk's takeover. For now, Musk's takeover bid for Twitter remains subject to shareholders and regulatory approval, but if it goes through as expected, we may witness major personal shifts, resignations, and more. A similar shakeup took place when Twitter was listed on the New York Stock Exchange for the first time. By the time the company went public, there were already 90 startups being built by former Twitter employees. But it's smart, hey, yeah, we're not changing source code now.
It's standard procedure
Good.
for a public company.
Oh, it's good that it's like that. I was never aware that it was.
Yeah, for public companies, like there are what's called not only public company, but especially in public traded companies, there are periods where they are called freeze periods, in which at that time there are certain areas, infrastructure, IT, stuff like that, that there are no changes going to be, no layoffs, no hiring, because they are going to need to report on it during that time. And during that time, if there are going to be any major changes, then any reporting that would come immediately after that would be fraudulent, right? So they need to preserve a status for a specified amount of time. So it usually happens at end of quarters, and sometimes, if not at end of quarters, then at end of years, fiscal years, right? Where everything freezes for 3 to sometimes 6 weeks, right? Just complete freeze. And yeah, in a situation like this, it makes total sense.
Oh. Talk about streaming. Comcast and Charter announced a new joint venture that will see the two companies teaming up to develop a next generation streaming platform on a variety of branded 4K streaming devices and smart TVs. They were trying the title was they're trying to bring down Roku.
Next generation
streaming platform.
What is
I don't know.
Next generation streaming. I'm trying to.
Anyway, this new platform and the devices that run it will square off against Amazon, Roku, Google, Apple, and other established streaming hardware players. The new venture is evenly divided between the two companies and is exclusively focused on streaming. It does not involve the broadband or cable video business of either Comcast or Charter, which will remain independent. Comcast says its Flex streaming platform will serve as the foundation for what's coming next. It's also contributing the retail business for X Class TVs and will contribute Xumo, XUMO, a streaming service it acquired in 2020. Comcast introduced its X Class TVs last year as an alternative to the many popular budget TVs that come preloaded with Roku, Amazon, or Google software. For its part, Charter, known better to many for its Spectrum brand, is kicking in $900 million over the course of several years. The title of the article was that, what was it? If you can't beat them, join somebody else and try to. No, if you can't join them, get with somebody else and create a bigger company to beat them, or something like that. I don't know. I mean, to go against Roku at this point, when it's so much, it's like, to me, it's sort of like going against Don Quixote going against the windmill. I mean, Roku is established. Come up with something.
They're not a monopoly, though.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
but they're established. I mean, they are companies they worked on their stuff and they made strides. Come up with your own service like that. Develop it. Do what they, and then see which way it goes. But no, they don't want to. They want to go right away against somebody who's out there.
Well, I doubt they named Roku as their competitor. It's the whoever wrote the article that is assuming that. It's going to work in the same marketplace. They're going to sell TVs and service boxes.
Well,
I don't think there's going to be anything novel about it. And brand recognition, if there's something that Comcast and why do I forget the name?
Charter.
And Charter. If there's one thing that Comcast and Charter have never been successful at, right, is selling hardware. They have always sold services.
Right.
Yes, the hardware was included. They actually bought the hardware for you. But they never sold you hardware. And I don't think there's a single person in America, in the USA, right, that's seeing a box with those brands on them, right, would say, oh, I want that, right? The brand recognition for them currently isn't a positive one. So, I mean, good luck for them. But somehow this feels like somebody isn't reading the data correctly. Now, I might be biased, right? They are trying to sell something to cord cutters, basically.
Yeah, well, that's what, right.
That's what they're trying. Yeah. And I'm guessing that there isn't a single cord cutter that would touch them with a stick.
Right.
Oh,
because that's why you cut the cord.
Right. Good luck for them. But somehow it feels like they missed the boat a long time ago. And I mean, look, if they can catch up, maybe they can create something new and refreshing and interesting, but none of these words are associated with their brand. So I don't know. Let's see.
No, that's it. Well, let's see, and
It's
we will
Elon
see.
Musk buying Twitter, right? It's like it's the other way around, right? It's like this giant Comcast, right, saying, "Hey, I want to make TVs. Let me buy a TV making outfit." Yeah, maybe
Uh,
we'll see.
um, Here is another story that involves Netflix. As Netflix shares plunge to their lowest point in 5 years, the company risks losing its most valuable resource, its star employees. Working at Netflix has been one of the most desirable jobs in Hollywood, if not all of corporate America. The company ranks as one of the most beloved brands, pays well, and offers a chance to work with the people that changed the way we watch TV. But a record decline in Netflix share prices, precipitated by its poor financial results, has shaken employees' confidence in the company's long term trajectory. It has also erased the value of many employees' options. People who were sitting on tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars are left with nothing. More people are looking to leave Netflix right now than at any point in recent memory. Current and former employees said this past week. Netflix employees also asked leadership to issue new stock grants to make them whole for the losses this past week, per the information. But this is the situation with any company. I mean, if you don't,
Yeah.
if you lose confidence, you look somewhere else.
Not
And
only that, in this market specifically, right now, even the companies who are doing well,
mhm,
right? They see the stock plummet. So
yeah,
it's not singular to Netflix or any other large company. So yeah,
well, that while you were gone, we also talked about the fact that Amazon tumbling. So, but that situation reminds me of an article I read this week that said that the administration is trying to steal all the high level uh, professionals from Russia. They
mm,
are they're making it easier for them to apply for visas and to come here. All these things that were put there to stop them were taken out of the formula. So they said that they hope anybody with higher education in technology, in nuclear, and this and that is welcome to come here. And when there's a lot of, I don't know how they're going to let them out of there. I mean, we probably hear about a lot of them that tried and sort of like disappeared, like in the old days when people just, oh, where are they? Nobody knows. That it's interesting, that the people that work for you are really what make you. And to think about the fact that they want to leave, that's, even management looks at it and say, God, what's going to happen? Because they can't stop them from leaving. So it's a vicious circle that's happening when something like that going on. Now, okay, here's something new I've never heard of. I don't know if you did. After Dell's new compression attached memory module. Did you ever hear of that? CAM, CAMM? Leaked out last week, several tech sites led many to believe that the company was taking a path to lock out users' upgrades. However, according to PC World, citing both the person who designed and patented the CAM standard, as well as the product manager of the first Dell Precision laptop to feature it, the intent of the new memory module standards is to head off looming bandwidth ceilings in the current SODIMM designs. They claim that CAMM, could increase performance, improve reliability, aid user upgrades, and eventually lower costs too. I've never heard about CAM memory, but it's
I haven't
something.
either.
You what?
I haven't either.
Yeah. Apparently, Dell came up with new type of memory modules.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing really new about the concept of using compression to. It's just, it seems like they're talking about having a memory module with some sort of firmware, right?
Yeah.
That deals, but I think the critique here about locking, brand
Users. Yeah.
locking, uh, comes from the fact that the module that they introduced did not have the standard interface.
Right.
So
So you can't
maybe
just
it's
go
just
and
because
up.
it's just in the well, I don't know.
No, I mean it's true. It's like, when you could say the same thing about every time when memory in the early days, the SIMs and the DIMMs, the new ones, oh no, you can't upgrade that. You have to get this
Yeah.
type of memory. And it was in the beginning, it was always hard and expensive to get it. So you couldn't upgrade if you wanted to. But that's
I do I do think it's the first time Dell is spearheading innovation in this fashion. They usually
follow.
yeah, I'm not only that, I mean, that was part of the whole concept of Dell is we'll give you everything that exists out there, right? Better price and better service. That's how they built themselves. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that that's how they are, but that's their mantra. That's the fiber of their being is about giving the best that's out there in a better way. Um, I wonder if it is something that it's something to follow. That's clear. I I I did help a family member uh, purchase a computer this week,
Mhm.
and let's assume the budget was unlimited, right? And I asked him, okay, so what are you looking for, right? And he sent me a spec, and the spec was the latest i9 with DDR5, and I'm looking at it, and the price hike from buying something with DDR5, right, is like 1,200 compared to buying something that supports the current. Uh, uh, Not because the
Standards.
DDR, it's not the single component, right? Because you need a motherboard, you need a CPU, you
Right.
need, and because you're going on the bleeding edge, right? Then that edge bleeds your funds very very fast.
Yep.
There's this. I think our audience is actually in the same mindset as me and you on this, but those who track YouTube channels, TikTok channels of computer builds and testing performance, and there's all of this talk about performance, and especially those who follow gamers, they're all using this bleeding edge hardware uh, and promoting the idea that this is what should gaming should look like, this is what computing should look like, etc. um, and yes, some of them actually even quote the prices, and they even discuss value, but nobody discusses whether that value is actually worth, right? What are you getting for your buck? And usually, if you go for the second best of the previous generation, right, you're still going to get something spectacular in the way it performs compared to anything you are touching right now, and you're gonna pay so much less, right? Because change advances so fast. So the second best of the previous generation is still amazing today, right? And there's no need to jump ahead of us. If we look at DDR3 and DDR4's track record, right? Machines with DDR3, if you get one today,
Mhm.
right? The memory is dirt cheap
Yep.
and it'll still run fantastically well.
Absolutely.
So why jump on DDR5 now? Wait. If you're not making money out of it, right? If that thing doesn't make you more money than a machine with DDR4, and especially if you're just spending on it and it's just going to be a machine where you game or you read news or you browse or whatever, why are you, even if yeah you want the best performance, what is the performance per buck you're getting, right?
And I don't
How
think
much are you going to
a
spend?
and I don't think you're gonna see big performance
you
improvement.
maybe you'll maybe
No.
see a performance increase, right? But it's going to be minuscule
Yeah.
compared to, especially on the workloads that you do. I do not see a single reason today for even an enthusiast like me,
Mhm.
right? Run an i9 or a Ryzen 9 on my home computer, unless I'm running some sort of server stack and it's running virtualized things, right?
Yeah,
That
that's
starts to make a bit sense. But if you're just running Windows or Linux as a desktop, 7 isn't enough. A Ryzen 5 and i5 isn't enough, right? No game in the world is going to do better on an i5 than an i7 in a meaningful way. The numbers might be a bit up, right? But as a human, you're not going to enjoy that bit
yeah.
of numbers that are more, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember in the early days of the PC when we had, all kind of upgrades, hey, yeah, you can take it to 384K or you
And
can
we felt it.
yeah, but for video, we use there's always the guys who were giving and reviewing will always saying and back then when you changed from one page to the next, it wasn't pop,
Right,
it was zzz,
right.
it would draw it. So they were saying, yeah, the difference is between zzz and zzz. You can see it, but it's a little bit faster. So what's the big deal? You can't type as fast because everything back then you had to type.
Yeah.
So you can't type as fast as a computer. So there was a lot of reasons. Hey,
Oh, I
stay with what
remember
you got.
Windows 3.11, right?
Hmm.
And you would launch Word and you would compare it to a word processor, some word processor on DOS,
Hmm.
right? And
They,
on Windows, you would type, and a second later, the word will show up, right? Everything was lagging. It was what you see is what
yeah,
you get. Yes,
yeah,
in a delay. We're not there anymore. That's what I mean. The increase is not something we'll feel. Uh, I mean, even if what you're doing is video processing or
hmm
something like that, right? The amount of cores is still limited because you need the software to actually know how to handle that thing and work in parallel. And without virtualization and complex software and complex infrastructures, it's not enough just having a very strong computer anymore, right?
right.
So, yes, there are advances. They are meaningful. I'm not saying they're not meaningful. I'm just saying for the home users, for the office users, they're not going to be as substantial, and you can still save between $1,000 to $1,500 on a build, right? So instead of spending 3,500, you can spend 2,500. Yes, I'm talking about a very expensive machine. I
Mhm.
know, but that gap is unnecessary, right?
Nope, it's not.
Don't look there. It's not helpful. So it was just a nice reminder of that. Hey, that was
So what
instead of specials. Don't buy an i9, buy an i7 or an i5.
so what did he end up with?
He ended up with a fantastic machine. Uh, for gaming, we talked about it. The graphics cards,
Yeah.
the GPUs, they're starting to get more and more available.
Mhm.
Still pricey, but more and more available. So one of the challenges is finding a website that whatever it shows you, it has it actually in stock, right? So the guy showed me a gaming enthusiast PC build site, NXDT, I think that's the name. I'll check in a sec. And it reminds in a bit, how Alienware and what's they called, uh, Republic of Gaming stuff like that. They're doing. And he wanted um, some advice, and yeah, I, I told him, look, you're gonna pay. You can pay that price, but how about you reduce these components a bit, right? You add a hard drive, which is going to be cheap compared to the other components, and you are going to buy additional 4 years of warranty, and you're going to get something that you're going to be so much more happy with than the bleeding edge, and you'll be busy by measuring uh, the IOPS, and but if it will
It's
fail in a year or two, then you'll pay through your
Yep,
nose just to fix it.
right.
So
Not
once,
only that, not only that, but when somebody says, "Okay, I want the latest and greatest," and let's say that today's the i9 and they have an i5, they're gonna be so disappointed because they're
exactly.
not going to see I say, "Why did I spend all this money?"
But if they buy the current i5,
Yeah,
which is still like
cheaper.
a leap
Yeah,
from the computer they bought 4 to 5 years ago,
mhm,
they'll be blown out of the socks,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's the thing. That's what you need to remember.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Alright, let's see what else I have here. Oh, Brave.
Brave.
Brave announced a new feature for its browser last Tuesday. DAMP, which automatically jumps past any page rendered with Google's accelerated mobile pages framework and instead takes users straight to the original website. I remember where AMP was like a big thing for uh, WordPress. It speeds it up, blah, 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 blah. This was quite a few years ago. So now it's DAMP.
Yeah.
Um, Where possible, DAMP will rewrite links and URLs to prevent users from visiting AMP pages altogether. Brave said in a blog post. And in cases where that is not possible, Brave will watch as pages are being fetched and redirect users away from AMP pages before the page is even rendered, preventing AMP/Google code from being loaded and executed. Brave framed DAMP as a privacy feature and didn't mince words about its stance toward Google's version of the web. In practice, AMP is harmful to users and to the web at large. That's what their blog said. Before explaining that AMP gives Google even more knowledge of users' browsing habits. confuses users, and can often be slower than normal web pages. And it warned that the next version of AMP, so far just called AMP 2.0, will be even worse. Brave stance is a particularly strong one, but the tide has turned hard against AMP over the last couple of years. Google originally created the framework in order to simplify and speed up mobile websites, and AMP is now managed by a group of open source contributors. It was controversial from the very beginning and smelled to some like Google's trying to exert even more control over the web. Over time, more companies and users grew concerned about that control and chaffed at the idea that Google would prioritize AMP pages in search results. Plus, the rest of the internet eventually figured out how to make good mobile sites, which make AMP and similar projects like Facebook Instant Articles less important. So Google is still going on with that, and they're coming up with a new version of it. But Brave says, no, not so fast. Here's the way you can do that. I
When was the
never.
last time you saw an AMP site, though?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, it's for
I don't
mobile.
remember this being
It's for mobile, and I
exactly.
don't do much browsing on mobile.
Yeah, but even on mobile, I think most of the sites I go, they're just responsive, right?
Yeah,
the
that's
responsive
right. Yeah.
architecture.
So that's what they
And
were saying.
yeah.
So that's interesting.
It's like I understand why Brave is making such a fuss of it because that's a business model, right?
Yeah.
There's this concern. We can protect you from that concern. I don't use Brave. Nothing really against it. I want to be able to pick and choose the extensions I run.
Yeah.
And Brave
Which
just
makes
comes
sense.
with some baked in stuff, right? And I'd rather Firefox does it well enough for me. I don't need anything else.
All right. Home automation. So you sent out an advertising about what was it, Slick Deal?
I think Zoo's stuff was on
Yeah.
sale.
I didn't see anything that I could use, but the prices were good for a lot of those sensors. I was gonna ask you something. So I don't know, about 4, 5, 6 years ago, when Uzi came back from Florida, he brought me a water leak detector that's Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Can that be used with Home
Probably.
Assistant?
We need to see what's the process of
Okay.
onboarding it.
Okay.
But depending on the brand, all you need to do on Home Assistant, you go and search
For
integration, whether that brand exists. And yeah, sometimes with Wi-Fi, you need some mobile app to set it up first for your Wi-Fi, and then Home Assistant can take over, something like that.
so Wi-Fi can work with Home
Oh yeah,
Assistant
yeah.
just as well.
Look, remember when most of the Wi-Fi stuff, right, requires some sort of server running outside your home.
Then that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, but it doesn't mean Home Assistant can't work with it. So,
You mean
let's say you
wait,
do have smart stuff at home that is, I don't know, Samsung based, okay?
yeah,
So that requires Samsung services. Doesn't mean Home Assistant can't work with it.
but does
That's the
that
thing.
But does that mean that Home Assistant manipulates the server that's outside? And if you lose,
Sometimes that's the only way to work with that component,
okay,
right?
so that
But
means that if the internet goes down, that particular
yes, that's
device,
a possibility, definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes you need the outside server just for the initial connection, and
hmm,
then everything is controlled in house. So, for
okay,
example, uh, uh, Hue Lights, right? Hue Lights are they are Zigbee. But assuming you do not have a Zigbee controller and you do not pair your local Zigbee controller to the Hue Lights, you will connect to the Hue hub. Now, the connection is done over Wi-Fi, but you need the Hue hub first to connect, right? You need to first establish connection. There's a username password exchange, but after that, everything is happening locally. So if internet connection is down, the connection between Home Assistant and the Hue hub is still going to be local over local Wi-Fi, right? And it'll control the lights through there. So it really depends on the technology of the automation.
oh,
Home Assistant currently is the one that is it's a if there's a way to automate it with some sort of API, official or unofficial, Home Assistant will have that integrated.
okay, all right. And this week, uh, my friend Marshall came up and we were sitting outside talking, and he says, "I need to buy a switch. Uh, there is a switch on the wall in one. They bought a house in the mountain, and I
Yeah.
don't want to even get into how much that stuff costs. But there's a switch that has actually 6 switches in it, and you're supposed to press it, and it turns the lights outside here and outside there, and but it's not wired; it's wireless."
Wireless, yeah.
And we start talking, and he said it's made by Insteon.
Okay.
So, and it went bad.
But Insteon made a lot of Z-Wave and Zigbee stuff.
Yeah, it's Z Wave. He said, yeah, I read somewhere that
Oh,
it's Z
right.
Wave. I
Yeah.
said, okay, I cannot tell you what to get or how to do it or what I know. They went out of business. Say, I just found out they went out of business because I was going to do something on the app and there's no response. And he found out.
I didn't know they have an app. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought, I mean, Home Assistant has an app that you can use it from, not from the computer, but from your phone, right?
Right. But
That's
you
what
connect directly to your server.
I guess.
No,
Oh,
I'm
I
telling
see
you.
what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, so I told him, I said, no, you need to listen to the show and maybe Gal can tell
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
what
If
to
it is
get. But
indeed
but apparently he's got the whole house is smart. He said he's got those switches everywhere. He's been there for 2 years
okay.
already, and he says that it's those type of switches. And he showed me the switch on Amazon, but I don't think you can buy it anymore, or that it'll do any good. But it's
If it's
every
Z-Wave, you do
he,
not need the Insta-on. But
yeah,
maybe there was a hub. I don't know if Insta-on made a hub of their own.
yeah. See, I didn't know
So,
anything about
and
that.
connecting
So
to the hub is probably look, he switches on and off the lights and it's still working, right? It's
yeah,
just the app
Eh,
that isn't
he
working.
he's saying that he had it programmed to come on a certain time and go out at a certain time, and it's
Right.
all done from that switch. And he thought that they put that thing because there's no room on the wall for 6 individual switches.
Right.
So this was like an electronic one, and he was trying, yeah, that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to reprogram
One of them to
some,
do something else.
yeah, and it didn't work. Um,
We can help him.
yeah, what Alan is saying, Home Assistant won't even tell you the time of day if it can't call home first.
I think Alan, I think you're confusing something. Home Assistant is a specific um, open source project. I think you're confusing the Google Assistants, which used to be in the past Google Home Assistant. And the Google Assistant, you're right. If you're talking with it, it's something that you speak with, like an Amazon Echo. Then uh, they
It has to
can't
go to.
function if they're not connected to the network. Home Assistant, if you go to home, I think it's home-assistant.io, right? Um, yeah, home-assistant.io. That is an open source home automation solution that you run on a Raspberry Pi or on a Linux server or on Windows. You can actually run it on Windows, and it is an amazing piece of software engineering, and it's completely community driven up to about 2-3 years ago when the founder uh, built a small company around it. They sell a home assistant cloud service, so you can basically everything still runs locally at your home, but they provide a few services to connect to other cloud services. For example, like Alexa and Google Home Assistant and stuff like that. And that's what the company. That's how they fund the operation of managing the project. But it's still very very much community driven. It's a very exciting project. I really recommend taking a closer look at it. Home-assistant.io. So that is completely different than what was in the past known as Google Home Assistant.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference is it can run completely independent of the internet.
Yeah.
If you're using the right devices.
By the way, as far as automation goes, right? This isn't just for automated homes. This can be a complete orchestration, like uh, solution. If you want something to happen when a stock price reaches a specific value, and you want an email to be sent, doing it with Home Assistant is so easy, right? It can be. You remember IFTTT when it was free, right? It can be that with much more uh, uh, any logic that you can think about that incorporates different services, right? Home Assistant can be that automation tool for you. So let's say Delta Force monitoring can Alan asks, does that
Yeah.
mean that I serve
Sever.
separate ties
Severed.
between my Nest Hub and Google? No, Nest is tied to Google. But if you buy something uh, uh, that is not Nest, right? It can work with Google stuff as long as you have Home Assistant, something that Google can't do it for you.
Right.
For example, if you buy something branded, right, that requires calling out, you're stuck. But when you have something to orchestrate connection between different things and you focus on stuff that can remain inside your network, right? Then Home Assistant is a good bridge between those and stuff that needs to be connected outside. One of the things that Home Assistant can do is, yes, it can replace, for example, your use of the applications, the Google applications, in order to control the Nest stuff. Instead, you can control everything through the Home Assistant infrastructure. it will connect to the Google stuff, but you won't need, for example, to run the apps, stuff like that.
And
And
it
of course, you can automate it. You can
and
automate it with your own logic.
right, and you can automate it, which you probably cannot do with the app. The app is to control it.
Well, I mean, Google actually does provide
Oh,
some
okay.
way, but yeah, but automation on the Google platform is a lot more complex, for example, than doing it
Okay.
with Home Assistant. Remember, if you buy something from Samsung, it'll be great for Samsung stuff. If you buy something from Apple, it'll be great for Apple stuff. If you buy something from Wink, it'll be great for Wink stuff. It's but the moment you want to integrate your worlds, right? And you want something to interact with something else that it wasn't that the designers didn't think about, then that is where you are either going to program something on your own, right? Like start from scratch, writing some Python script that does something and listen to an
Mm.
API. That's so complex. But, or you go to Home Assistant and the community where they have these basically plug and play Lego boxes, right? Where you can hook them up and you can hook up an add-on that allows you to drag and drop the logic, create like flowcharts and stuff like that. That is when you start to understand the power of this. So if you've ever liked the idea of IFTTT and you wanted to do something a bit more complex with anything, any service, then I would recommend uh, find a Pi or host Home Assistant in a VM and start playing with it.
Yeah, and the best thing is, if anybody's starting, that is, to think about using devices that don't rely on the internet or on somebody else's server, which means relies on the internet. Because when the internet goes down, you know how it is with the Echo device. You can't use it. That's it. It's worthless. So while having Home Assistant locally and the right devices that you talk to directly, everything, there's no connection to the internet.
Keep in mind that the personal assistants where you talk to them right now, what is commercially available, most of them, they require a service outside.
Yeah.
And Home Assistant will know how to integrate with that service. But if you're looking for something that you don't want to actually talk to or control with the phone, but you want it to be smart. You want it to heat when it's cold outside. You want it to cool when it's hot outside, right? Stuff like that. And you want to control the logic, right? You can do that on your own. And it's not. If you're listening to this show, I can tell you, it is not complex. It's straightforward. You once you hook up the components, and hooking up the components is going through some items on a list and just choosing them and starting to hook them up.
And the way that Nick did it is something that I'm sure you couldn't do with the other ones. Is when he said, if I open a window, I want it to turn off my AC.
Yes, yeah,
And
that's
he
very easy to
implemented
do.
it. He put a sensor on his window, and if he opens windows because it's nice outside, right away it turns off his heating or his air conditioning.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. All right. Well, it's that time of day. I guess Nick is having fun with the family, which is good. It's good.
Yep.
Anything else you wanted to add, Gal?
I think it's Yom Ha'atzmaut, no?
Really? I don't know. Yom
In a couple
Ha'atzmaut is the Israeli Independence Day.
May 4th. It's going to be.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. May 4th. You know what May 4th is?
Yom
You remember
Ha'atzmaut.
Star Wars? You
Yeah.
remember Star Wars? May the 4th be with you.
Oh, May the 4th.
So Star Wars fans, they love May the 4th because it's May the Force be with you.
Yeah.
So
May the 4th. Or if you have a speech impediment, it's May the 4th.
yeah.
Yep. Well, happy Independence. Happy holiday to the
reason we're
Israelis. To the
unsure is
Israelis out there.
because
What?
the reason we're unsure is not because we don't know what date our Independence Day is on, is because we don't know what date on the
Hebrew
Gregorian calendar it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, because the Hebrew calendar is a lunar calendar. So
All right. I don't see anything else in the chat. Gene made a comment. Pretty soon there will be more streamers than people to stream to. So
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So thanks, Gal. That was fun. Say hi to everybody there. And Nick, I hope you're having fun. And I know that Spence is not listening. He woke up early today to watch the what do you call it? The light, the sky, lights.
Aurora Borealis.
Yeah,
I hope he catch it.
yeah. He said he was going to, because they said that night before and last night were the best. So he missed the first night. So he said he was going to wake up this morning early to watch it. Everybody, thank you for. Well, first, good morning to Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Dana, Dina, Arlington, Micha, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave AM and 107.9 FM. You can listen to it anywhere by telling your Echo device to play 980 The Wave. And you can always also go to listen to past recordings at nickcraig.com. And Tuesdays, 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection podcast on Twitch. This is for survival games and gaming news. So 7 p.m. at twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.